Well, yes, I'm Dave Coulter, and it's really great to be here with all of you. Thanks for coming. We're here in our county seat at the great city of Pontiac, and as you know, we're talking about being back to school. Now, school started last week here in Pontiac and in many of our districts, and obviously, it always reminds me, and I'm sure a lot of you, the excitement of going back to school. You get new school shoes and clothes, and you get to go out shopping for school supplies and your backpack and all of those memories that a lot of us older folks have of that first day and that first week of school. But these days, students have a lot more to think about than just what shoes they're going to buy or what supplies they're going to get. I heard a report last week where a teacher was buying door stops to deter potential shooters in her classroom. Another one that bought a stash of masks in case they had a COVID outbreak in their classroom. Clearly, these are different times in our schools. And we are here to acknowledge that and to talk about the importance of leaning in on ways that we can support our students, our teachers, our school districts during these tough days. I'm sure that these precautions are necessary in those instances, but they've really produced a sense of anxiety and dread on the part of a lot of our students and our teachers and staff, frankly. So what it reminds us is that along with the normal resources that we have to get out to our 175,000 students that at least attend the public schools here in Oakland County, districts also need to worry about the other challenges that have been really bubbling up for years but were exposed during COVID. This struck me. In the fall of 2020, so fall of last 2 years ago, the American Academy of Pediatrics and a couple of other organizations declared that the child and adolescent mental health was a national emergency. We knew that mental health for kids was an issue before, and access to that mental health was an issue, but people smarter than me say it's a national emergency. Let me just give you a few statistics. Mental health trips to emergency rooms by students has skyrocketed by 40% in 2021. And this is clearly borne out by our experience here in Oakland County. That's a national statistic, but the same thing is happening right here in our county. It's why we granted $10 million in mental health grants to 41 nonprofit mental health agencies across our county last year, because we knew that this was going on, because we heard from those providers. And of the nearly 40,000 people that took advantage of getting those mental health services, 40% of them were under the age of 18. This has disproportionately affected our young people. So as our kids go back to school, I knew it was a priority to boost the funding that we're giving to districts to help them with the mental health challenges that they are facing, as well as to provide resources to address learning delay brought on by the pandemic as well. We know that our teachers and our school districts did their best during COVID, much of it with remote learning, but it has caused significant learning delay. And we know this, and we're seeing it now, especially this year as kids come back and they're in a different place than they maybe would have come back with normally. I want to just point out a couple of the things that we have done and will continue to do, and then we're going to hear from some people that are on the front lines of this issue every day. With the bipartisan support of our Oakland County Board of Commissioners, and I'm happy to say that our chair, Dave Woodward, the chair of our board, is here with us to speak in a bit. We invested in mental health programs in 2021 to the tune of $12 million, and this year we've added another $10.1 million in direct mental health services directly available for the mental health professionals in the schools to work directly with the students in need. It's a significant amount of money. It wouldn't have been possible if it hadn't been for the federal dollars that we got, and so our Congress folks aren't here today, but I want to applaud them for their efforts because they understood how important this is as well. And with our great partners at the United Way of Southeastern Michigan, and they're represented here today as well, and you're going to hear from them, we approved, with the board's approval, an out-of-school program to assist students academically, socially, and emotionally. A $5 million program that they're going to administer for us, working again with our nonprofit partners. But it's not just the mental health of our kids that's important, although that is a top priority for us. Our students have been able to come to school prepared, both physically and emotionally. We need our students to come to school prepared physically and emotionally to have the best shot at succeeding. And so we're also looking at other things. We're looking at food insecurity. Obviously, we knew that was an issue before the pandemic, but that has become an increased priority as well. So we've invested $2 million in emergency food assistance to improve access to healthy foods, especially in our underserved communities. We're providing $14 million. I throw around these numbers, and these are large numbers, but these are significant investments, and I'm really proud of all of these. Sometimes I say it's hard to spend this kind of money wisely and with impact, but I think we've been able to do that with the support of our partners and our board. But we're going to be able to, with that money, to provide more affordable housing options. If you're housing insecure, it makes it a lot harder to get a good education. Legal protections against evictions and foreclosures and the like. Increased capacity at emergency shelters. Some people are losing their housing. And to help people with home repairs, which helps them stay in their homes. And you may say, well, why is home repair and eviction important? But for the stability of a child's education, they need a stable home. And finally, child care scholarships and training. We did $1.7 million in that so that moms can go back to work and have a safe, secure, and reliable place to send their kids. So you see, our students won't have the best shot at learning if they come to school hungry or insecure about their living conditions. And so that's why this is so important to us as a county. But as I think you all know about me, I don't pretend to have all the answers, and I don't think the county can do this alone, so we do it in partnership with so many great organizations and people across the county. So I want to introduce one of those folks. We're here in Pontiac, and we're really blessed to have the leadership of Kelly Williams, the superintendent here in Pontiac, and she's going to speak now about some of the challenges that they've seen here at the Pontiac School District, but also the great success story about the Community in Schools program that they've initiated it here. So, Superintendent, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Good morning again. My name is Kelly Williams. I am the superintendent for the Pontiac School District, and welcome to all that are here. I just want to thank you because it's an honor to be able to host this press conference and to be able to speak on education and some of the challenges we have faced and the supports that we have received during this most unprecedented time. As you are aware, the past few years have brought increased mental health and learning delays. I like that word, delays versus loss. And struggles for students across this country. It's not just here in Pontiac, but it's not just in Oakland County, it's across the country. And some of the biggest hurdles have come through the navigation of the unprecedented circumstances from the COVID-19 pandemic. We have worked diligently to provide resources and opportunities to assist our students to continue to deal with the ramifications from the pandemic. They were literally virtually learning for 2 years, where some of them had many challenges with needing desks, resources in their homes to continue their learning. And I am so proud of our district, as well as all of the other Oakland County local school districts that provided and pivoted quickly to provide online learning and access to food for our students. We have seen firsthand how supports and investments in the areas of mental health and wellness have had a direct positive impact on our students' success academically and socially. Our school-based health clinics and other in-house programs have proven to be invaluable in our PSD community. We thank Oakland County Executive Coulter and the entire Oakland County team for its commitment to the health of our students in this county. They hold the future for all of us, and an investment in them is one of the most important that can be made. We continue to also value the county as an important partner and are grateful for the work they have done for our district and my fellow districts around me. This is including Community in Schools. This program, which provides vital resources and a safe space for communication to our students and families, which is much needed during this time. I cannot thank Community in Schools program for all of the work that they have put into our local district, as well as the county supporting us with the dollars and funding to enlist these partners. During this time, we have faced, again, so many challenges that some could not even imagine for students to have to deal with on a daily basis. And these partnerships and funding have definitely fostered relationships and resources throughout the community to help us move the needle academically and socially for our students. I want to thank once again all of you for being here, and at this time I would like to introduce the Oakland County Board of Commissioners Chairman, David Woodward.
Thank you, Superintendent. Thank you, everyone, for being here. As Executive Coulter talked about the excitement of starting a new year, as a parent of 2 middle schoolers, it's a little more hectic than that. You're up in the morning trying to figure out how to get kids out to school, to pick up all the kids and everything. There is an excitement about adding some order and routine. But on the other side of the coin, and being married to an educator, our schools serve such more of a function than just educating our young, our future. They play the role of healthcare provider, physical and mental health. They play the role of public safety guardian. They play the role of social work, and so much more. And it's present here as well as all the school districts across Oakland County. I'm so proud of Oakland County's partnership with schools. Mark my words, there is no stronger partnership between county and local school districts than here in Oakland County. And it started long before the pandemic. But the pandemic, as Executive Coulter mentioned, unmasked a lot of the challenges too many of our students face. And we sprung into action. With the very first emergency dollars that came in, we made certain that those dollars got to schools to help make sure that our students were safe and help with the transition to make sure that learning could continue. Thanks to President Biden and the American Rescue Program that brought money to Oakland County, we have been able to, as Executive Coulter mentioned, laid out program after program to address acute and specific needs that, with a goal of long-term transformational impact to make sure that our youngest learners can succeed, because that's what makes a strong community. And it should be no surprise. We're a board made up of educators and social workers and many others that work with our youth, and this is a top priority for us and will continue to be so. And so our commitment to Oakland County and to our Oakland County schools, most importantly our students. This is our future, and when Oakland County leans in, we make certain that we expand opportunity for everyone, and particularly these young people all across Oakland County. So thank you very much. This is the beginning, and we're going to continue to build on this success to make sure that all of our students succeed. And with that, I'm going to introduce Lake Orion school psychologist Jared Wood to talk about some of this programming.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for that additional funding, and it has made a difference for us. I think we've got, honestly, I'm sorry I don't have the numbers, I think we've got about 10 or 12 new school social workers in the district, and we're constantly trying to add to it, and that's great. Superintendent, I was also really pleased to hear that some of the initiatives are covering such basic needs. We do have mental health needs, that's for sure, but so many of our kids have mental health needs because they don't have their basic needs met. They don't have food, clothing, shelter, don't have lunch. Thankfully, that hasn't been an issue the past few years, but we have to keep that rolling. We have to make sure that everybody's got those basic needs met. Apart from that, I think if everybody just kind of thinks about your life and how all of us have been affected over the past 2-3 years, you think about, I don't know that a lot of, we have a pretty high number of kids and adults with mental health issues. And I think if you consider all the folks you know who may be suffering at any one time with depression or anxiety, and then you add to that all the stress of the pandemic, especially to our young minds who weren't necessarily prepared for that, don't necessarily have the confidence that some of us might as adults in picking up our lives and rearranging it. There's a bit of helplessness there. And so if you can imagine that what we had going into that was just exacerbated. And I don't have a good estimate, but double, triple, tenfold. I mean, was there anybody who wasn't significantly impacted in some way. And then you have kids who lost parents and other family members. I mean, this was an upheaval of our normal lives that most of us, maybe none of us, have ever seen in our lifetime. And that takes resources on the front line, that takes extra folks being there. I can tell you from being on the front lines, I have never seen some of the issues, just the depths of the issues. Let's say what we might consider a relatively common problem like depression or anxiety, we've seen more of those cases that I would consider truly crippling, truly life-shattering. It's very difficult sometimes to get kids out of bed and get them to school, and so we've seen a lot of absenteeism as well. And we can certainly need use help in that area, and so all the initiatives are aimed at helping us get there, and especially like I really don't want to short shrift some of those with the basic needs. We still have a lot of basic needs that need to be met, as well as the more difficult challenge, mental health issues. So with that, I want to turn it over to Fabiola Molina Portillo, because she's a 12th grade student at International Technology Academy, and she is going to speak from a student's perspective on some of the challenges that she sees, as well as her advocacy role in supporting students.
Hello everyone, my name is Fabiola Molina and I am a 12th grader. I started school last week and it has been kind of rough. It's not the same experience that I would get like 5 years ago. It's not, oh, tell us a little bit about you. It's what's the procedure that has to go in case of a lockdown. And it impacts us as students a lot. We don't get the same experience as we used to in school, and now it's more scary in a part. There's so much going on and we have experienced so many things and we have hit rock bottom after rock bottom. And just having the help of mental health, it's really important, not for me but like for a lot of students. Mental health, it's something that has been around for a couple years, but we don't give it as much awareness as we should. So I'm going to talk a little bit about mental health stigma. There are three main types of mental health stigma. There's public mental health stigma, which comes from friends, family, classmates, co-workers, anyone that's around you. It's usually negative comments about your mental health, which can lead us to self-stigma, which is within that person individually being ashamed of their situation or illness, not being able to take their medication or look for proper help to get better. And there's also institutional stigma, which is more of a systematic, which involves policies from the government or a private institute that not allows someone with mental health to get a job or get a position that they're looking for or needing. Mental stigma impacts us every day. A lot of people older than me would say that this generation is the last generation because we're so fragile. But a lot of times you gotta think there's a lot that we've gone through in our lives, that it just takes a lot mentally and emotionally, and getting the fun to mental health, it's sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
You're good. You're good.
Getting this help just means a lot, not to me, but to those around my classmates. I know it's been a rough couple years, and we have made it so far. And just bringing this light right now of getting more help. It's a good first step to increasing awareness to mental health and just helping us overall. Thank you.
Wait, thank you. That was awesome. You did great. You did great. Yeah.
Next would be Oakland University Professor Ana Angulo.
Oh, that was moving.
That was very beautiful, thank you. Hello everybody, I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about the Oakland University Math Corps. I am very enthusiastic about this program, my whole heart's in it. My name is Professor Anna Maria Spagnolo. I'm the Executive Director of the Oakland University Math Corps, and I'm also Chair of the Department of Mathematics and Statistics at Oakland University. In the math camp, I'm known as Dr. Anna. Before I begin, I would like to express my gratitude to Oakland County and to Pontiac for all the hard work they did in helping me with this program. And I also want to thank Oakland University administrators for their support of the program. This includes very, very many people, so I'm only listing a few here. President Aurora Paskovitz, Provost Britt Rios-Ellis, Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences, Elaine Curie, Associate Dean Fabia Battistuzzi, the entire CAS Dean's Office, thank you. Vice President of University Advancement, Mike Westfall, Teresa Rogers from Pre-College Programs, Director of Philanthropy, Angela Robinson, and our Associate Provost, Amy Baines-Marcelli. The Math Corps is an extremely successful camp that was established over 30 years ago by Professors Steve Kahn and Leonard Bohm at Wayne State University. Oakland University is one of many sites. Other sites include Ann Arbor, Michigan, Dearborn, Michigan, Toledo, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and Atlanta, Georgia. The Oakland University Math Corps is an absolutely amazing summer camp. It's an outreach program to Pontiac, Michigan, and we accept students with grade ranges from A through F. In fact, we make it our business to have a balance of grades coming in. The primary requirement for a child to be in the Math Corps is that they're committed to working hard and that they believe in the philosophy. And I'll talk about that as I go here. We work with children starting from where they are in math. Whatever point they're at in math, we take them from there and build them up. The Math Corps is a serious math program, and by that I mean we set high standards in math and we have high expectations of our children. In the summer 2022, we ran a 4-week camp on the campus of Oakland University for the very first time. 35 rising 7th and 8th graders and 21 high school students finished the program. The results were phenomenal. Median scores upon entrance of the program were around 30 and 40% in each grade. But the median scores on the final post-test were 87% and 90% respectively.
Wow.
In 87% for rising 8th graders and 90% for rising 7th graders. In fact, every student in the camp dramatically advanced in math. But I'm here to tell you that the Math Corps is much more than a summer program that teaches kids math. It does that, as you know from these numbers, but it does much more. The Math Corps teaches children to be ready for life and to be successful in life. The Math Corps particularly teaches that each child is good and has greatness within them. We in the Math Corps understand that our role is to help bring out that greatness within each child, but we all understand that the greatness is already there. We actually celebrate greatness in all ways every day of camp. The Math Corps is also a support system for kids, as in the form of a loving second family. So it's a second family to kids in a loving, brotherly, sisterly way. We emphasize values of kindness, hard work, and integrity. We teach that having respect for one another is automatic, but in the Math Corps, we do require much more. We require that each person in the Math Corps, whether staff or student, goes beyond respect and actually cares for one another. It's absolutely amazing to observe kids at all levels during their time in camp. Kids often tell me that they love camp even after the first day. Parents and guardians also tell me that they're surprised at how much their children love the Oakland University Math Corps. Many told me that their child would wake up extra early to make sure they make it on the bus in time so that they don't miss the Math Corps. That warmed my heart, okay? Let me tell you especially why. Because just so you know, our students had to be at the bus stop by 7:30 a.m. in the summer. So they woke up super early, and this gives me a great opportunity to thank the M1 bus system managers and drivers who worked with me daily to rearrange schedules and make sure we picked up every kid. They're just incredible. I can't say enough about them. After 3 weeks in our camp, children told me they never thought they could be an engineer or an applied mathematician, doctor, lawyer, or business owner, even though they thought they might want to do these things. But now they feel confident in math, and that confidence has made them know that they can pursue these careers. The Math Corps is a life-changing experience for many. I have many, many examples. Here I'll share one. So within a few months before camp started, one of the parents reached out to both me and to the program coordinator of the Math Corps on several occasions. She wanted to let us know that her daughter is very isolated and she's very worried about her. Though she signed her up for the Math Corps, she's very worried about her mentally, and she didn't know how it would go, and she wanted us to be aware of this. I want to let you know several students came in like that, but I'm talking about one particularly. She explained that her daughter was not talking to anyone, and she's very isolated. She was learning online and chose the last year to be online, and it wasn't going well. So during the first week of camp, we also observed similar behavior from her. But I have to tell you, after the second week of camp, the child began opening up. She not only opened up, she began a beautiful social life in the Math Corps. And if you could see that, I wish you could all experience this. It brought joy to everybody's hearts. Everybody kept talking about this. She even started leading math initiatives. She took the lead in her group on solving challenging math problems to do a scavenger hunt on the campus of Oakland University. Nobody would have guessed that on day one or even by the end of week one. This was incredible. Dramatically, her behavior changed dramatically. And I have to tell you this, her mother noticed it and called. That was incredible. She called to hear her mother's joy about her daughter and the change that she had made. She explained that the transformation was her hope and dream for her daughter. In summary, the Math Corps is amazing. I love all of our children in the Math Corps, and I'm truly honored to run the camp. It's a beautiful camp, and I really wish every child could have this experience. I want to thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Tanya Adair, United Way rep.
Thank you so much. Let me start by first honoring Fabiola for her words. Your words share with us how important this work is. That stigma that you talked about has honestly kept so many people from seeking the help and support that they need, and especially those that need it most. And this opportunity, I believe, is going to help break down those walls, break down those barriers, so that so many people can get that support and that help. So thank you for opening up and sharing with us today. It's so important. Like it was said, my name is Tanya Adair. I am the Chief People, Equity, and Engagement Officer for United Way for Southeastern Michigan, and I'm so excited to be here today to share the news of this exciting grant partnership with Oakland County and United Way. I want to thank Executive Coulter, county commissioners, and everyone who helped create this program, and for the work that you are doing for families in Oakland County. We've partnered with the county on so many occasions over the last years, and each opportunity has made a real difference in the lives across Oakland County. And I'm confident that this opportunity we're announcing here today will do the same and will make a huge difference. In Fabiola's words, it's going to break down those stigmas. It's going to open so many doors for so many people. So my background is education. I spent 26 years as an educator And I've seen firsthand the challenges many families, especially those with school-age children, face every day. We all know the incredible strain that COVID has put on every one of us, and it has created tremendous challenges for the individual learning progress for students and youth service providers. Now that we are moving into somewhat of a new normal, because let's face it, things will never be the same. But in this new normal, as most students are returning or have returned to classrooms, we're seeing the impact of lockdowns, modified learning, and how much mental and emotional support we all need. What we know is nearly 40% of Michigan households struggle to make ends meet, and that was before COVID. As you can imagine, that impacts everything from a family's ability to keep the lights on, putting food on the table, to a child's ability to learn and ultimately succeed. This increased investment is critical to helping to ensure our children can access the academic, mental health, and emotional supports needed to thrive in school and beyond, especially after a devastating 2.5 years caused by the pandemic. The $5 million United Way will administer is part of the American Rescue Plan Act local fiscal recovery funds. The funds will specifically be used to establish the Oakland County Out of School Time Learning and a Social Emotional Supports Grant Program. The funds will support existing programs and will expand current offerings and will be available to nonprofit organizations, school districts, public school academies, and Oakland County cities, villages, and townships to scale up to deliver academic and emotional support to young people impacted by COVID-19. The grant will also help ensure continuity and expansion throughout the county in order to meet the growing demand of support services. United Way for Southeastern Michigan is honored to work with the county once again, and we look forward to getting these funds into the community where it can help so many people. Grant applications will be available beginning later this month, with award announcements to be made in December to prepare for spring implementation. Organizations can visit our website, and this is the part they made me say, website to register for an upcoming webinar that will be held September 21st that will provide more information on when and how to apply. But I must say, as an Oakland County resident myself, I stand here today really excited and proud to know that our county values and appreciates our young people, not only in words, but in actions that invest into their well-being and into their futures. I'm so grateful to be a part of this great county. I'm so grateful for the work that you're doing in this county, even Dr. Kelly Williams as well, the work that you're doing in our partnership. And I thank each one of you for lifting up this need and for the opportunities that we're going to conquer together. Thank you so much for having me here today, and I look forward to the amazing work we will see through this partnership.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. All right, so that concludes our list of speakers. We'll take questions. I guess I would just wrap it up by saying this. I hope that we haven't given you so much sort of heavy news that it hides the fact that, at least for me, and I know for everyone here, I'm ultimately optimistic. I believe that when we come together and put our minds and our resources and our communities and our hearts together, that we can address these issues that are confronting our kids today. And I would end by saying, you know, having listened to Fabiola and getting the opportunity to meet her, failure is not an option, because for Fabiola and every other kid in this county, we have a responsibility to do everything we can to lean in all the ways that we can to make sure that our kids have the best opportunity for success. So thank you for being here. And with that, I know there's media here. If there are any questions, for me or any of our speakers, we'd be happy to take those now.
Executive, can you give just some examples of a specific program that this money is going to be used for? We heard about the after schools, but something else?
Well, I mean, it's the communities and schools, which is, you know, do you want to, I mean, so that you're instituting that program. Let me just ask you to sort of talk specifically about what it'll look like in Pontiac.
So part of the funds will go towards at-risk social workers, as well as expanding our community in schools program. We work with United Way that have brought in additional supports, liaisons to our families, so that we find and keep a pulse of what our families are dealing with to support our students, as well as ensuring that the whole wraparound support for a child, meeting the child's whole needs, are put in place, because we know that they need other additional people to speak with. We've also hired additional attendance agents to go out to the homes, check on the students who are not showing up to school on a regular basis, and just all of the supports that would be needed to support the need of the whole child. Care closets in every building, supplying the additional resources so that they don't feel embarrassed to have to ask for those supplies. They can just enter into these care closets in each school building.
And I would just add that the reason I asked her to talk specifically about Pontiac is because it's not a one-size-fits-all program. So we're going to work with the superintendents in different school districts, because the needs are similar but different. And so, another superintendent may have a slightly different way of wanting to use those funds. Yeah, thank you.
Mental health professionals, we don't have as many, just as we don't have enough teachers and subs.
Yeah.
So in what way does this money support creating more mental health professionals? Because there won't be enough to go around, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So how are you going to provide support when you don't have feet on the ground to do it?
There's
So
no
what's the
question.
next-
There's no question. We don't have enough mental health professionals. One of the things that Oakland County is investing in, I didn't mention it today, there's a number of ways that we're leaning in, is on a residency program, so that we can get more people trained in this field in our county, with the hope that we can't make them stay here in Oakland County, but that these will recruit people that we think are passionate about this work in these communities, in the hopes that we get more people educated. And Dave, do you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, and just like exactly what we're talking about. I've talked to a number of superintendents, because they're also looking long term. We're using a lot of money that's one-time money, so this is to kind of bridge this gap. But how do we address this issue long term? It's going to need more resources. But I have talked to some superintendents that are looking at building training capacity of educators to help identify where, again, those acute needs are, to help identify the students that need the support, to be able to match them with the providers, whether it's through community mental health, a social worker in school, a school psychologist, or whatever, to be able to help address that issue. And so by training educators, you're able to get to scale, to be able to reach and identify those needs. And so I think that the creativity and the ability for school districts to identify what's the best way to address this needs, and the flexibility and to learn from each other is part of the secret sauce to be able to figure this out.
What's the current student to mental health professional ratio, and how do you hope to see that change once this $5 million goes into play?
I don't know.
Sure.
If you know that, I don't know the specific number. I don't want to misquote. I certainly could get my fingers.
And I don't have a lot of specific numbers. I know a lot of times it's thrown out. It should be closer to 1 to 200 to 1 to 500, depending on which mental health professionals we have. The schools are stacked with sort of layers of professional help. Some are called family school liaisons. We have counselors, we have social workers, we have psychologists. Other districts may go by different names. I'm not sure if you guys call them different names, but so we have those layers of support, and so sometimes the ratios might not exactly look perfect, right? But I think it's a very reasonable question. We definitely are under in our capacity. I think, for me, it's about 1 to 2,000, whereas a lot of my colleagues, it might be more like 1 to 500, 1 to 1,000, but it varies by school, for sure.
And I'll just add, broadly speaking, that it's not enough, and we've underfunded these areas for a while. And primary school funding comes through the state, and so talking with the legislators, it's important to remind people that I started this by talking about when I first went to school and all the things I was excited about and the challenges that I had. But we had counselors in our schools, we had nurses or medical professionals in our schools that we have sort of disinvested in over the years. And I think this is an opportunity for us as a state, frankly, to revisit that. And I applaud the governor. She's made historic investments in public education, but part of that needs to include more mental health help, more counselors, more nurses and medical professionals, frankly. Yeah.
is this something we can work our way out of, or is there additional funding in the pipeline for when this 5 runs out? How do you continue this?
So that's a great question, because we are primarily spending American Recovery Plan dollars on this, which have to be spent by in a certain amount of time. There's a 3-year program. You can extend it another year, but these are relatively short-term dollars. And so frankly, the hope is that if we stand up these programs and get the results and that make the impact that we think they will make, then we can make a case to either go to our Board of Commissioners and say, look, these programs work and we need to figure out in our budget priorities how to make this happen, or to engage the philanthropic community, nonprofit partners, and others to sustain them. But you're right. Right now, we're still dealing with COVID, and so we can stand up these programs under the umbrella of the COVID impact, because that is what disrupted all of this. But I think we all sense that in 2 or 3 years this isn't going to be over, and then we're going to have to revisit how we sustain it. No question. Yes.
Good morning. I'm so proud of you guys doing stuff about with the school districts. My question is, do you see a partnership coming from the school district with other cities in the community for Potter's Maybe?
I'm sorry.
In regards to the funding, so you see, because you said communities, are you going to be able to help funding for in the city section side of it?
Yes, and it's our intention to work with every community and every school district in ways, and we have been doing that, frankly. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
I do have another question. Sorry, you guys jump in anywhere, but Fabiola, just talking about being an advocate, what kind of peer support or emergency mental health first aid training are you guys talking about, so folks like Fabiola not only is just an advocate but knows how to respond appropriately in the moment, because they're often literally the first responders when someone calls up and says, I'm having a rough day, or they see someone in the hall and they know something's not right. So what's in place, what exists and what's in place for emergency mental health first aid and peer support training?
So this is not specifically a peer-to-peer program, but as I guess I mentioned in terms of the Communities in Schools program, individual school districts could certainly use funds to help establish peer-to-peer programs, or to uplift the current ones that exist. And so that's what I mean by, we don't want to be so prescriptive that we tell each school district how they need to do this work. So like I mentioned before, we try to be collaborative about it, and superintendents are really smart and experienced people in this and have a really good sense of what's needed in their district. So we rely on them to decide if some of these funds should support peer-to-peer or other opportunities.
We have time for one more question, but go ahead.
Do you want to add to that?
Yeah. And then one more question.
Well, and specifically to that question, I mean, the flexibility of school districts to figure out the best way to use these dollars. I have a meeting after this where the panel that's going to be reviewing application for school districts are empowered to figure out the best way to do this, and whether that's internally, externally, bringing additional support, a base level of funding we're making available to every school district, another matching amount that we hope to match with local school districts to be able to really lean in hard to address this issue. But I think it's a very important question.
So the other question is, how do we know how the money is being spent? What sort of accountability will we see for $5 million, and how that is sort of spread out around the community, matched, grown, whatever?
Yeah.
How will we know how these ARPA dollars are being used to the penny?
Yeah, well, from day one, even before ARPA, which was the CARES dollars, we knew that was a significant infusion of money, and I knew as executive that we will never be accused of mismanaging or misspending one nickel of that money, and we have been very diligent. In fact, we have engaged with a firm that audits those funds, and not only do they audit them, but they continue to be a resource for the county, so that every proposal that we come up with, every great idea that comes out of the commission or our school districts, gets run by these folks and says against eligibility, because part of the challenge has been that the Treasury has changed eligibility over time. Some things have been relaxed, some things have been strengthened, and rather than the county, we're very serious about going by the rules, and so we make sure that Guidehouse is the name of the organization that we use. This is what they do for a living, and we audit and oversee every program to make sure that it meets all the criteria and eligibility. And then of course we report back on them, and that's important too, because we want to know what the results were. We want to know how well they worked, because I want to be able to make the case 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that this is worth spending. And the last thing I'll say about that is, because some of you are grantees, and there may be grantees listening, we don't expect perfection. We're doing our best. We are trying to lean in and figure out the best way to meet the needs of our kids. Some things are going to work, some things are going to be home runs, and some things we're not going to be as successful at. But part of this process is finding out, asking the question, why not? What didn't work about that, and is there something we could do? Is there another way to operate the program? Is there other funding that's needed to make sure that we can be successful? So we're not going to hold them to the standard of 100% success, but they have to work with us as partners to tell us how did it go, and what impact did you make, and how can we increase that? So I guess that's the time we have. So thank you everybody for being here. Thanks to our speakers. Appreciate you all taking the time. Thanks everybody. Yay! Hey, excellent job.